Hello everyone and welcome to Reviewed to Review. I'm Adam, this is Josh. Hi Josh.
Hola.
What we're going to be doing today is talking about Man of Steel, a movie that came out 7 years ago, and I'm finally getting around to actually talking about it because it's been kind of stewing around in my brain for that long. As many of you guys know, Man of Steel was directed by Zack Snyder, very famous for making movies such as 300, Watchmen, and Sucker Punch. I actually still haven't seen Sucker Punch. I'm probably not going to. Anyway, a big thing about Zack Snyder is kind of a common criticism about the man. Most of his movies are usually a visual spectacle, but as far as writing goes and overall storytelling, they tend to be lacking. So the movie starts off in Krypton, because of course it does. You got Jor-El, who ends up actually being a major chunk of the movie. Not only is he in the entire first third of the movie, he ends up becoming this pretty frequent theme throughout the film, which is not uncommon for the Superman mythos, but to the point where it often feels like Superman is competing for the screen time with his own dad, but you know, family drama issues or whatever. So Jor-El is played by Russell Crowe, always a treat to see. Fun fact, when I was a kid, for some reason, I knew in my head, Russell Crowe hits people. Don't know why, but I was like, yep, nope, Russell Crowe hits somebody. In my psychology class, we decided to watch A Beautiful Mind, because of course we did. In the movie, we noticed that Russell Crowe gets into a little bit of an argument with somebody, and he pops some dude in the nose. It's as he hits that dude, me and my friend look at each other, it's like, oh yeah, no, that's Russell Crowe. And that is affirmed who he is for the rest of forever. So anyway, badass Russell Crowe is continuing to do badass Russell Crowe things and finds the Codex, which is apparently some sort of DNA trap kept for the entirety of Krypton. So the Codex is basically a creepy skull kept inside an even creepier matrix ball pit of fetuses. So it's been established that in Kryptonian society, all children are pre-selected for a predetermined job to lived out the rest of their lives. And what they do is they go and they literally just pluck children out like tomatoes and then say, hey, you're a soldier. Hey, you're a tailor. They have fancy clothes. I'm assuming that tailors are a very in-demand position. So Jor-El gets the Codex and he needs to get it to his son so when he launches his baby off into space, he's able to carry the race on, but again, it's not entirely clear why he needs to do that. What's confusing about this to me is the fact that it is a point made by Jor-El that him and Laura, or yeah, Laura. Hey Josh, can you look that up for me real quick? Is it Laura L?
I'm pretty sure it's Lara.
I'm positive that's it, but I like for the sake of, you know, this, I'm going to make certain it's as accurate as possible. Laura L. Fantastic. So it's been made abundantly clear that Jor-El and Laura have decided to have a child by natural childbirth, which is, for some reason, heresy. If it's already possible to do that, why is it that they need to ship off the Codex with Kal-El to whatever planet he goes to? If they've already established that they can make children with, you know, each other, why do they also need the Codex? The only thing that I can think of that would make sense is that the Codex is specifically used to help bridge the gap between the Kryptonians and any other species that he may come in contact with. Problem with that is that's not explained at any point. I'm already having to grasp straws there, and it's never explained again throughout the entirety of the DCEU, and specifically the movies where Superman is a main character. Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, they never talk about it ever again. It really just felt like a plot device to get Zod to have to go after Kal-El, which, if he was already pissed off at Jor-El and said he was just going to find him, I mean, I could see it being enough of a revenge shot, but actually, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'm not a writer. Technically, I'm not a critic either, but we're still here. You then get to see him with his family have a really touching moment as his son is born, and then as soon as his son's born, he has to send him off into space for his own safety, knowing that him, his wife, and his entire race of people's gonna die. Pretty heavy stuff, and it looks really good, and it's like a fantastic opening to a movie, and I still remember sitting back in the theater thinking, alright, this is awesome, this is what I wanted from a Superman movie. And then the next thing you see is Kal-El ship coming into the atmosphere, crashing, and then he's 33 years old. A lot of stuff you skipped over, but that's okay. We will continually go back to those points throughout the movie. And that's where I start to complain about the movie. It's not that I necessarily hate the flashbacks, how they were done. I'm just trying to get on with the movie, but you keep trying to bring up something that you already had a chance to tell me about, and I'm not really interested, and now I'm getting kind of confused. Henry Cavill as Superman is fantastic, and I'm gonna go ahead and like man crush on this guy for a second, because let's get this out of the way. One, wicked shape. Holy He spent over a year getting jacked in order to make certain he had a natural Superman form. And that's just something that I truly appreciate. His overall performance and dedication to the character itself. Understanding exactly what it is that makes Superman Superman and essentially Clark Kent Clark Kent. And that's the beauty of the character. The people who really love Superman love the fact that Superman is the most human character in all of DC Comics, if not comic books in general. Superman has always been my favorite superhero. And it's awesome to see that someone like Henry Cavill treats the character with such love, admiration, and respect to put his body through such an ordeal. And just the amount of dedication he was willing to put in to guarantee that he gave one of the best performances of Superman of all time. It's something I truly respect and appreciate as a fan of the character. Amy Adams' casting kind of bothered me, but it's not her fault. You don't see her playing Lois Lane. Amy Adams is a fantastic actress. If you haven't seen American Hustle, it's great. If you have a family and you guys want to watch something together, Enchanted, fantastic movie.
I will admit, I had a terrible misconception while I was watching it initially.
What was that?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow?
She looked like Goop Lady.
Goop Lady.
She's apparently making money from Goop. She has a Netflix series. If you want to watch it.
No. He knows. He already knows I'm not going to watch that. She was in Smallville too. She actually talks about this sometime. In the very first season, she played a character who was overweight and insecure. She decided to drink a meal replacement shake made out of kryptonite, and she turned into a fat-sucking vampire. She would literally walk up to something, unhinge her jaw, bite onto it, and suck all the fat out of it.
Which is amusing, because you know what else she was in? Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
She got around. She's been working for a while. I'll see if you haven't seen her. Her's great. So Amy Adams is a fantastic actress. She's got a pedigree of work. So if you haven't seen a lot of her stuff, I definitely recommend it. I just feel that she wasn't necessarily Lois Lane. I'm conflicted about the part where she was talking to the two army dudes and she's saying, "So if we're done measuring dicks, can we move on?" I was like, yep, that's a Lois Lane line. If you know anything about Lois Lane, she doesn't take shit. And that seemed very much like her. So now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think my issue was actually with Amy Adams' Lois Lane, but how Lois Lane was written. Because in those few moments where she did act like Lois Lane, she seemed like Lois Lane. But the way that she was written most of the time was she needed to be saved by Superman. Now, yes, if you read the comics, Lois Lane gets saved by Superman, but she is so much more than that. She is a tough-as-nails journalist, and the reason why she needs to get saved by Superman is because she is chasing after the story. She's not just being stupid. She's not always a target, although, yeah, she's a target for kidnapping sometimes. It doesn't happen all the time, though. Here she only seems to be there for Superman's benefit, and that's not a good way to write any character, so, So now I'm going to talk about Jonathan and Martha Kent, who have always been important characters in the world of Superman. His entire morality is based on everything he learned while growing up in this farm in Smallville. Have his father, played by Kevin Costner, and his... Shit, who is his mom played by? It's not Sally Fields, it's, Is it Sally Fields?
Diane Lane.
I'm an idiot, it is Diane Lane. I'm so sorry. We need to edit that.
Easy enough to do.
We're gonna edit that out. I'm gonna go ahead and get out the way that I was a very big fan of the show Smallville, and one of my favorite things about that show was the relationship that you saw between Martha, Jonathan, and Clark. The fact that you could just feel the love that came from these three characters as they interacted with one another, grew together, and learned so many things about Clark, where he came from, how to keep his secret, and what to do. Unfortunately, in this movie, you don't really get much of that. You get these real nice interactions here and there. Unfortunately, some of these nice moments feel a little bit undercut by the overall message. It seems that they don't want Clark to be Superman, which is a bit of a difference. To me, it's always seemed that Martha and Jonathan have wanted Clark to do good for the world. When you go back to the scene where Jonathan is talking to Clark after he saved the kids on the bus, it's almost heartbreaking. He did the best he could. He did what he thought was the right thing to do. And his father, of course, wanting to protect his son, said, hey, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do, but it was. I don't think it's debatable that it was. I can understand being nervous about the risk, but you should praise your son for saving somebody's life. Honestly, you don't see that at all. You only ever see Jonathan Kent, if anything, hold his son back. again, to protect his son, but you also have to let them reach their full potential. You have to help inspire them. Teaching him to be scared of himself and that everyone else will be afraid of him, I think is going to ultimately do more damage than good, which has a lot of potential for good storytelling. Unfortunately, in the amount of time we're giving, we only see the dark, dreary parts of Clark Kent's life. And even if Jonathan and Martha were the only thing in the movie to make it feel hopeful or positive, honestly, the movie desperately needed it. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to Zod, played by Michael Shannon, who I honestly can't say I've seen him in too much of anything. I know he's been in a lot, so he does have these roles where he has intensity, and you definitely get intensity with his role here, which is interesting for Zod, because when the world was introduced to Zod, you think of Terrence Stamp, who had a very regal demeanor about him. As he destroyed and killed the world, he spoke in a very soft accent that I can't even try to replicate. But with Michael Shannon's portrayal, it's very much this angry, ruthless dictator feel. And it's interesting to see a different take on the character. And it's not hard to understand where Michael Shannon's character is coming from. His planet of Krypton has been destroyed. And being a man of action, he feels he has seen his government fail his people. And in his mind, it is for the best interest of his people to go and terraform another planet to Krypton to let his race live on. However, he decides to do this by starting a coup, and it doesn't work, and he gets put in a ice dildo and shipped off to the Phantom Zone. Now, of course, being trapped in the Phantom Zone in said ice dildo, I'd be pissed off too. So once they break out of the Phantom Zone, they decide that they need to get the Codex in order to help restart the Krypton race, and now he has a reason to go find Superman. Now, real quick, the first Superman movie I ever saw in theaters was Superman Returns, and we'll talk about that some other time. I do remember one of my biggest complaints about the movie was there wasn't enough action. Well, fast forward to 2013, and something I complain about Man of Steel is there's too much action. Holy crap, that fight with Zod went on for like an hour. It was too goddamn long. So they fight, they destroy the entire city of Metropolis. Honestly, it doesn't matter. He doesn't have a connection to any of these people. And you know, I will kind of allow for the fact that it's his first time fighting, and typically Superman has a build-up. He fights criminals, he fights other smaller metahumans and other robots and things like that. Nope, first time he's out as Superman, he has to fight another Kryptonian. It's Kryptonian who has been trained in the Kryptonian art of war, who with great discipline is able to master his powers within minutes, while Superman has been struggling with them for 33 years.
Who with great power comes great responsibility.
Don't even go there. Stop it. I'm sick of it. One thing I did think was kind of cool though is Zod did have to take a moment to adjust to his powers. It wasn't instantly he had it. And honestly, I do think it does show Zod's resolve in a strong way. With everything he's been through, he's actually able to focus his power. So, I'll allow it. Like, I can make the choices. And then one thing I also thought was really cool, as Superman's flying, Zod, who can't quite fly yet, he decides to Donkey Kong his way up the side of the building, just punching the sides of it, breaking window and rock as he gets to the top. Fight starts to settle down, and like, okay, you're starting to wrap things up. And then Zod takes his armor off and learns to fly, and the fight goes on for another half hour. And after like the 20th time somebody goes through a building, you really start to think about the casualties. You start to think, that's a lot of people. These guys were just working. A lot of people were running away. You can't ignore the fact that thousands of people are dead. Thousands. And then you get to the end. Thousands of people are dead. Superman and Zod have their moment, and Zod refuses to go down. And one thing I will say about Zod losing his mind at the end, I kind of get it. The Phantom Zone was destroyed. All of his people he fought wars with, people he had spent 20 years with in the Phantom Zone, those people are all dead now. He has nothing except Kal-El, who has made it very clear he's doing nothing to stop it. And so he throws caution to the wind. And then that's where things start to suck, because... So my biggest complaint overall about the entire movie was the very end of the film. And I still remember sitting in the movie theater watching this happen. Overall, I was having a good time. I do remember getting a little bored with what felt like an hour-and-a-half fight scene between Zod and Superman. Finally, at the end, we were getting to the climax, and I was curious about exactly how he was going to stop him, especially since they had just destroyed the Phantom Zone, so I didn't know what he was going to do with Zod. And then it happened. Superman kills Zod by snapping his neck. I'm not even gonna lie, my heart broke in the theater when I saw that. Like, not to be too dramatic. No, I don't even care if it's dramatic. I don't care if it's dramatic. Honestly, I needed something to lift me up a little bit. I was a little down at the time. I wanted to see a Superman movie and feel hopeful, and I went there and then Superman snapped somebody's neck. My heart broke. I was sad. It was a rough day, okay? And another big reason why I don't like Zack Snyder is, well, again, he's not really good at telling stories. I honestly don't feel bad about saying that. I can't think someone feel free to prove me wrong. Go down in the comments, and if it turns out that I'm wrong about something, I will come back in a later video and say, actually, no, this was fantastic. But even when it comes down to Watchmen, honestly, he didn't adapt the movie too much, so long story short, I don't feel too bad saying that he's not good at telling stories. So what exactly are the problems I'm having with this story? Well, Superman doesn't feel very attached to humanity as a whole. He is being bullied frequently his entire life, which you can do. I'm not saying he can't be bullied, but he doesn't have anyone to lean on, and that's what's very important about the human experience, and what's very important about anybody going to school or even just living. You can't get through it without somebody else. Also, something that really bothered me about the movie, everyone on Earth sucks. Everyone. Like, why is Clark Kent supposed to want to protect everybody? The only good people in his life are his mom and his dad. Everybody else is an absolute asshole. Pete Ross, who's actually a big character in the comic, and then also a character in Smallville. He is known for being Superman's friend. You know, Jimmy Olsen is Superman's best friend. But you know, when he was growing up, he was just Superboy. His best friend was Pete Ross. For whatever reason, he's the biggest asshat just from the get-go. Not really having done anything. He's just that weird kid on the outside. And I get that. It's Superman. It's part of the allure. He's on the outside looking in. Even though he'll never be like us, he wants to do anything he can to be a part of us. How is he supposed to feel like he should be a part of us? Why is he going to want to be a part of the human species if literally everyone is just a douchebag to him? Even his teacher's kind of a jerk. Remember the thing with his teacher? So the kid has a mental breakdown because he can't control his powers, which is incredibly understandable, and is actually something I do like that Zack Snyder did. He showed how horrifying it is to have a power you can't control. So the kid then runs off into the janitor closet, locks himself in there. The teacher then corrals the rest of the students in the classroom to sit there and all stare at the freak child who ran off because he was scared for no reason. I'm not a parent, nor am I a teacher, but if I was either, I'd be really pissed off in that situation. That's all I'm saying. Kids, stay in your room. Another complaint I have about Zack Snyder is that the one thing that is abundantly obvious throughout the entire film, and not just this movie, but as you will see throughout the DCEU, his favorite superhero is Batman. I'm not saying that the movie is a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I think overall the biggest thing that gets in the entire movie's way is that Zack Snyder likes Batman far more than he likes Superman. In fact, this entire movie just feels like it's a response to the entire Dark Knight trilogy. And honestly, I can't even say that's entirely Zack Snyder's fault. If I remember correctly, the head of Warner Brothers at the time was Kevin Tsujihara, and what everybody was trying to do at Warner Brothers and DC specifically was make everything dark and gritty. Worked for the Dark Knight trilogy, let's do it for everything else. In an attempt to make things just as dark and gritty as the Dark Knight, they brought Christopher Nolan as an executive producer. Now honestly, I got really excited about that because I thought it toyed with the possibility of Henry Cavill's Superman and Christian Bale's Batman being in the same universe, but that's dead in the water.
Dark and gritty. I'm Batman.
Superman is not Batman. Superman's not supposed to be Batman. Superman's not supposed to be this dark and gritty like character, and unfortunately, Zack Snyder didn't understand that, and it just seemed to be that he wanted to make a movie that felt a lot like what made Batman popular. And I can understand wanting to go in a specific creative direction, but it's Superman. You can't do that with Superman. Superman doesn't kill people. You don't make Superman kill people. And Christopher Nolan actually originally understood that. Turns out Zack Snyder went back and did rewrite after rewrite after rewrite until eventually Christopher Nolan's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess if he has to, that's the way Superman would have to kill him. Zack Snyder's like, oh, okay, great. And to be honest, the rest of the DCEU also suffers from the same mentality, but again, we'll get to that later. But honestly, yeah, my biggest complaint about the movie is Zack Snyder. So ultimately, my thoughts about the movie are, while it's worth seeing, I was still pretty disappointed. There are some cool things to see, and the actors, for what little they are given, do a fantastic job. Henry Cavill is one of the best Superman, in my opinion. I love seeing Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Perry White, played by Lawrence Fishburne, it would be nice to see him do more, but fantastic. Ultimately, I just feel a little bit disappointed because when you go and you see a movie about Superman, you're supposed to believe a man can fly. You're supposed to have a great time. You're supposed to believe that things can get better. You're supposed to believe in yourself. You're supposed to realize that what makes us human is treating each other with kindness and doing what we can to help one another. That is what makes Superman Superman. The understanding that we only have one another. And no matter who you are, where you're from, race, religion, or creed, we only have one another. And I honestly feel like we have all the pieces to have a film that makes you feel that way. We just need somebody who understands Superman to write and direct the movie. But seriously, keep Henry Cavill. Alright, well, thank you for listening to me ramble. And if you guys have thoughts about anything, just leave comments below. If you want to know anything about Josh, please ask him lots of questions. I'll let you know everything.
Oh my.
I appreciate you guys checking this out. This is something new for us, but we'll definitely see how it goes. And if you guys can just hang in there, we'll get through these growing pains together and see what we got. Alright guys, we'll see you later. Say bye, Josh!
Bye.